What's up, you guys? My name is Scooter, or Ruben. My reputation is about the death penalty. My opponent's claim was the death penalty does not deter crime in our society. His secondary supporting claims was murder rates are consistently the same, psychological egoism, and death punishment is not certain. In his first secondary claim, my advocate says that the states without the death penalty have much more lower murder rates. The evidence to me seems insufficient because of one reason: the ratio of the populations. The states that have the death penalty have a bigger population compared to the states that don't have the death penalty. In an article about the death penalty, David Cooper provided his chart analysis about the U.S. murder rates from 1990 to 2011. His 2005 analysis showed that the population of the states that had the death penalty were a little over 261 million, and their number of murders was 15,400. As for the states that didn't have the death penalty, their population was a little over 38 million, and their number of murders was 1,600. In the ratio, I didn't put it, but in the ratio, it was fairly similar when I calculated it. Now, I'm just telling you this information because obviously it has changed over the years. We're in 2011, so a lot of states now have different views about the death penalty. So as we move on to that, the murder rate from the death penalty in those years was for the death penalty states was 4.8, while the non-death penalty states had a rate of 4.1. Once again, it's not a huge difference, as how the advocate said in his speech. And moving on to his secondary claim, his secondary claim states that criminals are determined to kill once they do it. I believe he's wrong because sometimes it's a crime committed within a crime gone wrong, such as a robbery gone wrong, and unfortunately some civilians were involved. You know, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So the point is that the homicide wasn't meant to happen, and the criminal will probably not let that happen again. It's not always intentional to keep doing it. And his third secondary claim says that the death punishment is not certain because many have different laws for killing, and that some states are uncertain about it. I don't see how having a choice between having this death penalty or not supports or his claim about how the death penalty does not deter crime in our society. That's pretty much it, so I will conclude with that. Thank you very much.
Right, structurally it's easy to follow. I do think that you need to do a little bit more to develop the arguments on each of those points. The state-by-state comparison, basically you just break the state-by-state comparison down a little bit more by population. What's the value of that? Does it show, for instance, that there is a deterrent effect, or does it simply minimize the difference between those states that have the death penalty and those that don't? I guess that's the inference that you're making ultimately when you talk about the murder rate of 4.8 versus 4.1. That's a minimal kind of difference. Okay, so does that mean that the death penalty does deter? Does it mean that the failure to deter is not that particularly significant, that we can't draw any conclusion from these numbers? Having made all of this information available to us, you need to make an inference from it. And to me, it's not very clear what your inference is here. This would have been, I think, an easy place for you to put in some counterclaims about deterrence. There's a lot of information that suggests that the death penalty does, in fact, have a deterrent effect, that there are criticisms of the state-by-state comparisons that take into account, for instance, that last argument about the uncertainty of the laws, that would find that there is, in fact, measurable deterrent effect, and I don't understand why you didn't bother finding some argument on that particular point, because that's the only place where there's really much clash. The other 2 points, basically you just say, well, it's like on the second point, well, maybe there's a crime within a crime, and they didn't mean to do that. So what does that mean? Does that mean that if we have a death penalty, they're less likely to do that second crime once they've committed the first crime, that they'll stop and think about it and hold themselves back? Or does it mean that they're going to commit a lot of crimes anyway, and it doesn't matter whether or not we have a death penalty one way or the other? I'm not sure why that argument is being presented either by the advocate or by you, and what the inference is that we should draw from this particular situation. The uncertainty issue, you kind of challenge the relevance of that. That's a reasonable press to make, but it seems to me like the stronger argument would be coming down on your side, that the problem with uncertainty is that the laws are not being applied forcefully, and that if they were applied forcefully, there would be a substantial deterrent effect to the death penalty. That would give you a much stronger contrast to what the advocate's position here is. Here, it just seems like you're parsing a few numbers, and I'm not sure what inference I'm supposed to draw from the difference on those numbers. All right. Thank you.